Okay, for number 10, our equation is 2 cosine x times sine y is equal to 14. And the difference between this equation and the other equations that we have encountered so far is that the y is not isolated. So we are just going to take the derivative of this equation implicitly. And before I do that, we have an equation here. Let me divide by 2 on both sides. This way, this 2 and that 2 will be able to cancel each other out. So I don't need to worry about the 2 on the left hand side. So here we have cosine x times sine y. Okay, cosine x times sine y on the left hand side. And that will be equal to 14 over 2, which is 7. So I can just look at this equation and take the derivative implicitly. Let me write this as d over dx to represent that we are going to take the derivative of this equation. Okay, inside here I have cosine x times sine y, so I will have to use the product rule. And the product rule says I'm going to keep the first function, which is cosine x, and I will multiply by the derivative of the second. And the derivative of sine is cosine, and you keep the inside the same for now. So it will be cosine y. And we have to see, since the inside right here, derivative of y is dy dx, I will multiply by dy dx. And this is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, derivative of y is dy dx by the chain rule. And for the second part of the product rule is we are going to add, we keep the second function, which is sine y, and we multiply by the derivative of the first. Derivative of cosine x is just negative sine x. Okay, so this part here is the product rule. And that will equal to the derivative of 7, which is 0, because 7 is just a number. And now let me write this, let me clean up this way right here. We will have cosine x times cosine y, and then times dy dx. And this right here, positive sine y times negative sine x. Let me write this as minus sine x first times sine y is equal to 0. Just let me keep things in the alphabetical order. X comes first before y. Okay, now we are going to isolate the dy dx. To do that, I will have to bring this part to the right hand side. And since this is a negative, once it goes to the other side, it becomes positive. So I'm looking at this as cosine x times cosine y, and we have the dy dx here. Okay, this is multiplied by dy dx. That equals to, this goes to the other side, which will have sine x times sine y. Now, I want to isolate dy dx. I can just do that by divide both sides by cosine x and cosine y. I'll divide that on both sides. Cosine x times cosine y. So that the cosine x cancels and the cosine y cancels. And the very last step right here, I have dy dx. Let me just change the color back to black. The very last step right here, we have dy dx equals to, we are going to pair things up. Here we have sine x over cosine x, which is tangent x, and we multiply by sine y over cosine y, which is tangent y. And let's see which one is our answer. This is exactly answer choice C. And that's it.